This was the first definitive proof that the plane had indeed gone down in the Indian Ocean.
The MH370 mystery has finally been solved by an AI. It has revealed a chilling truth that has eluded investigators for a decade.
It's about 6 feet long, covered in barnacles and other marine life, a broken bit of wreckage that may hold answers to the mystery.
On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 vanished with 239 people on board while en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, becoming one of aviation history's greatest mysteries.
That I had just found the second piece of debris in the greatest aviation mystery in history.
Despite exhaustive search efforts, no definitive wreckage was found. However, after years of fruitless investigations, advanced technology has finally offered a breakthrough. This revelation, if confirmed, would transform our understanding of what truly happened to Flight MH370 and the 239 souls on board. Stay glued to find out. AI concludes MH370 was deliberately crashed in deep ocean trench. When the world first heard about the mysterious disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 back in 2014, there was a collective sense of disbelief.
Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 an accident.
How could a modern plane filled with passengers just vanish in an age of GPS, satellites, and real-time tracking? Over the years, countless theories emerged, some logical, others bordering on the conspiratorial, but most of them had one thing in common. They leaned on the idea of some kind of mechanical failure or an unintentional event. But now, years later, a new theory has emerged, and it's not just another wild guess. It's grounded in data, algorithms, and some of the most advanced AI analysis the world has ever seen. And what this AI uncovered? It's far more disturbing than anything imagined before.
370, 3 to right of takeoff. Nice.
According to researcher Vincent Line from the University of Tasmania, a chilling new conclusion has taken shape, one that shakes the very foundation of what we thought we knew. He said that, based on the AI's findings, Flight MH370 didn't crash by accident or due to fuel starvation. Instead, he claimed it was flown, deliberately and with precision, into one of the most remote and inaccessible places on Earth, a deep trench at the eastern edge of the Broken Ridge in the Indian Ocean. Think about that for a moment. What kind of person would do that? What sort of intent lies behind such a cold, calculated move? What if the mystery of MH370 was never really unsolvable, just waiting for the right mind to look at it? And that mind turned out to be artificial? An AI has just cracked the case. And the answer isn't just shocking, it's terrifying. So what really happened that night? Watch till the very end, because once you hear this, you'll never look at the skies the same way again.
Initially, when the airplane made a turn without talking to air traffic control, in my mind, all bets were off.
Line explained that the AI analyzed vast data sets, everything from recovered aircraft debris to ocean currents to simulated flight patterns, and noticed something everyone else had either overlooked or dismissed. The damage on parts of the recovered wing, including the flaperon and flaps, closely matched controlled water landings like that of Captain Sullenberger's famous Miracle on the Hudson.
It's about 6 feet long, covered in barnacles and other marine life, a broken bit of wreckage that may hold answers to the mystery.
In simple terms, this wasn't the chaotic plunge of a plane running out of fuel. This looked like a calm, intentional descent into the sea. Why would someone go to such great lengths to hide a crash site so perfectly? But what really gave Line chills, he said, was when the AI connected the dots between Penang Airport's longitude and a simulation found on Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah's personal flight simulator back at home. Data that had previously been tossed aside as coincidence or irrelevant.
Sources say FBI agents are already combing through the hard drive from the flight simulator inside the home of Captain Zahari Ahmed Shah.
Could it really be a coincidence that this simulated route bore eerie similarities to the path MH370 actually took? Or was this the blueprint for the entire tragedy? The trench itself, the broken ridge, is no ordinary part of the ocean floor. Line described it as an underwater labyrinth, steep, narrow, filled with fine sediment, and surrounded by towering ridges. It's a place where even the most advanced sonar might miss something buried deep. And that's precisely why, according to Line, previous search missions came up empty-handed. They were looking in the wrong place, guided by assumptions about accidental descent patterns, not by the possibility of a controlled and deliberate hiding of the aircraft. It's as if the pilot wanted the plane to vanish forever, and almost succeeded. So, why is this new theory more terrifying than the others? Because it paints a picture of a man who didn't lose control of his plane, but rather exercised complete control right until the end. It suggests that Captain Zahari, a man with decades of flying experience, orchestrated a mass murder self-harm with chilling precision. Line stated that this wasn't just a mental breakdown mid-flight, it was planned, thought out, simulated, and executed with almost surgical accuracy. How do you wrap your head around that kind of intent? The Australian Transport Safety Bureau had long rejected such suggestions, preferring theories that pointed to incapacitation or depressurization. But now, with AI and quantum computing digging deeper than human minds ever could, the evidence tells a different story. It's the kind of revelation that forces you to sit back and wonder, how much do we really know about the people we trust with our lives thousands of feet in the air? Line's conclusion wasn't meant to provoke fear or fan conspiracy theories, but rather to offer a hard, data-driven explanation. And for families who've spent years without answers,
3 generations of my family. This is the extinction of my whole family.
even this dark possibility offers something they've never truly had: closure. But is closure worth it when the truth might be darker than fiction? And if one man could pull this off so seamlessly, what does that say about the systems meant to prevent such tragedies? In the end, the AI didn't just process data. It told a story, one of deliberate action, silent intentions, and a deep-sea graveyard chosen with care. And perhaps that's the most haunting part of all, because if it was planned, then the disappearance of MH370 wasn't just a mystery. It was a message.
Well, after more than a decade, one of aviation's greatest mysteries could soon be solved, with a new search commencing for MH370 off the coast of WA.
New theory sparks debate among aviation experts. The theory that artificial intelligence may have finally cracked the case of MH370 has stirred up something close to a storm in the aviation world. People are talking, experts are arguing, and it's not just idle speculation. It's passionate, deeply divided, and emotionally charged. At the heart of the controversy lies one very specific idea: that the aircraft didn't crash haphazardly, but was deliberately and carefully ditched into the ocean, almost like what happened in the Miracle on the Hudson. Some people are calling it a deliberate glided ditching, while others are practically shouting from the rooftops that this interpretation is misleading, maybe even dangerously so. So, who's right? And more importantly, will we ever really know? Those who support this controlled ditching theory are leaning hard on the work of scientist Vincent Line. He's the one making headlines for pointing out the striking resemblance between the damage to parts of MH370 and the famous water landing of U.S. Airways Flight 1549, the one where Captain Sullenberger safely landed an Airbus A320 on the Hudson River in 2009, saving everyone on board. Line says the similarities aren't just random or cosmetic. He's looked closely at the damage to the wings, the flaps, and the flaperon. Yes, that's the part found floating off Reunion Island, and argues that they mirror the kind of damage you'd expect from a smooth water entry rather than a catastrophic crash. And he's not just going on gut feeling either. International researchers have run detailed mathematical models comparing 5 different ways the plane could have hit the water. One of those models, the so-called glided ditching, aligns remarkably well with what little physical evidence has been found. Supporters of this theory believe this would also explain why there's been such a surprisingly small amount of debris scattered across the ocean. If the plane entered the water gently, there would be less fragmentation, less floating wreckage, and fewer parts for search teams to stumble upon. But here's where it gets complicated. Not everyone agrees, and that's putting it mildly. There's another camp of experts who strongly believe this theory doesn't hold up under scrutiny. They say if you actually look at the physical evidence, the story starts to fall apart. Larry Vance, a former Canadian aviation investigator, once concluded, based on photographs, that the flaps were extended at the time of the crash.
Piece of debris discovered off eastern Africa, possibly belonging to the missing Malaysia Airlines Flight 370.
Which would support a deliberate ditching. But others who've examined the debris up close in person say Vance got it wrong. They insist the flaps weren't deployed at all. And if that's true, it changes everything. Because for a controlled water landing to happen, the flaps have to be out. It's basic aerodynamics. So if the flaps were retracted, that suggests the plane wasn't trying to land. It might have been plunging out of control, fast and vertically, into the sea. One of the loudest voices on this side of the debate is Gung Chen, an applied mathematician whose team ran their own simulation. Their conclusion: MH370 most likely went into a vertical nosedive. A scenario like that would cause the wings and tail to shear off almost immediately upon impact, leaving the fuselage to sink rapidly, within less than a minute, and without much chance of bobbing back up or spreading debris over a large area. That would certainly explain the lack of floating wreckage, wouldn't it? So where does that leave us? Well, the science is still being tested and discussed. Vincent Line's findings have reportedly been accepted for publication in the Journal of Navigation, a respected, peer-reviewed outlet that has featured other MH370-related research in the past. And while publication in a journal lends a layer of academic legitimacy, it doesn't necessarily mean the mystery is solved. Not everyone is buying it. Former airline pilot and aviation expert Daniel Bubb, for one, has said point-blank that none of these theories, no matter how polished, mathematical, or well-modeled, can really close the case unless we recover the plane's black boxes. If the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder are still intact and retrievable, he reportedly said, then we can say with full confidence that the mystery has been solved. Until then, he seems to suggest, everything else is just an educated guess. And there's a final twist here too. Aviation journalist Jeff Wise has warned people not to get too swept up in complicated diagrams or long technical reports that might look convincing at first glance. Why? Because unless you have the specialized knowledge to properly interpret what's being presented, it's easy to be fooled. Wise has always been one of the most skeptical voices in the MH370 debate, and he's urging the public not to rush into accepting any one theory just because it's dressed up in the language of science and AI. So what are we left with? On one side, a group of scientists and aviation experts who believe the damage patterns and debris, or rather, the lack thereof, support the idea of a calm, intentional water landing. On the other, equally credentialed skeptics who say this theory is ignoring hard evidence and physical facts. The truth is, the debate is far from over. And maybe the real question we should all be asking is this: can artificial intelligence solve a human mystery without the final, irreplaceable piece of the puzzle, the black box? Until that's found, the search for answers continues, and so does the heartbreak for families who just want to know what really happened on that quiet March night in 2014. And the world is asking, is this the breakthrough we've been waiting for, or just another digital ghost in the machine? What happens next could change everything.
Flight MH370 is deemed one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history.
Search teams urged to investigate identified coordinates. For over a decade, the world has been haunted by the unanswered question: what really happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370? Families were left shattered, search teams exhausted, and experts divided. But now, out of the silence, something new is emerging. And it's not just another theory. Researchers are suddenly urging the world to take a serious second look at a specific patch of deep ocean, a place that previous missions skipped entirely. And what's pushing this renewed urgency? Artificial intelligence. Yes, after years of false leads and expensive dead ends, it's now AI that's shining a laser-focused beam on a spot deep in the Indian Ocean that it believes holds the final chapter of MH370's story. So what exactly did the AI find that humans may have missed? The coordinates, 33.02 dgs, 100.27 dge, aren't just numbers on a map. They point to a staggering underwater pit known as the Penang Longitude Deep Hole, sitting about 1,500 kilometers west of Perth, Australia. According to Dr. Vincent Line, a geospatial analyst and vocal advocate for this renewed investigation, this isn't just another speculative location. He insists that this is the real deal, the most compelling and direct physical evidence of MH370's resting place yet. He's gone so far as to call for urgent action, stressing that this isn't the time for more delays or debates. One has to wonder, if we have new tools that can help us bring answers to grieving families, why not use them? What makes this location stand out even more is that it was completely overlooked during the original search efforts. The first mission, which spanned a massive 120,000 square kilometers and cost an eye-watering AUD 200 million, never touched this spot. Even Ocean Infinity's high-tech follow-up exploration, which covered 112,000 square kilometers, missed this exact zone. Could it be that the answer has been hiding in plain sight, or rather, just a little beyond the borders we previously drew? Dr. Line certainly seems to think so. He believes the area at Broken Ridge's eastern end holds secrets that past sonar scans and satellite sweeps couldn't fully capture. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. The technology we now have at our disposal is light years ahead of what was available a decade ago. Ocean Infinity's Armada 7806 vessel, fresh off the docks in 2023, isn't just another search ship. It's a floating command center for an army of autonomous underwater vehicles. Sleek, 6.2-meter-long machines that can dive as deep as 6,000 meters and keep working for 100 hours straight without human interference. These robots are equipped with some of the most advanced sonar systems in the world, capable of mapping the seafloor in incredible detail. And this time, they won't just be guessing, they'll be heading straight toward the AI-flagged coordinates. And if that wasn't enough, researchers are also bringing in some serious computational muscle. Quantum computing, the kind being developed by the IBM quantum research team, is now helping analysts crunch through the endless permutations of ocean currents, satellite pings, and debris drift patterns with lightning speed. Back when MH370 first disappeared, it took months, sometimes years, to make sense of that kind of data. Now, minutes. And thanks to cutting-edge satellite imaging systems with sharper resolution and real-time tracking.
Richard has spent the last 9 months using new tracking technology mapping the plane's final movements, and he believes he's found its final location.
The search teams will have eyes in the sky that are smarter and faster than ever before. It's a surreal twist, isn't it? After all this time, it might be a machine, a mind without emotion, that finally leads us to the truth. But maybe that's what it was always going to take. Maybe human intuition and dedication brought us close, but now it's AI that will help us cross the finish line. What if this deep, overlooked chasm really is where MH370 rests? What if the answers have always been there, waiting for the right eyes, human or artificial, to finally see them? How officials are responding to calls for action. Malaysia's government has finally given the green light for something that many thought might never happen again. A new search for the missing Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370. Can you believe it's been over a decade since the plane vanished? After all the heartbreak, dead ends, and painful silence, the authorities have now officially approved Ocean Infinity to return to the depths of the southern Indian Ocean under a no-find, no-fee deal. In simple terms, this means the company won't get paid unless they actually find the wreckage. And the price tag, if they do? $70 million. That's how serious this is. Transport Minister Anthony Loke made the announcement, and from his words, you could tell this wasn't a rushed decision. He explained that they had carefully reviewed new findings, not just from one source, but from several independent experts, and came to the conclusion that this latest data is credible enough to act on.
Where an aircraft may have disturbed the radio signals, and you can pick up.
He didn't say it lightly. It was as if they were all holding on to hope while trying to remain grounded in facts. And when someone says multiple experts came to similar conclusions, you can't help but wonder, could this finally be it? Could this be the breakthrough the world has been waiting for? The new search will focus on a 15,000 square kilometer section of the ocean floor. That's a huge area, but it's also very specific considering how vast the ocean is. Why there, you ask? Because that's where the new analysis suggests the plane could be resting. And let's not forget, this isn't Ocean Infinity's first rodeo. They've been here before, and they've made it clear they've never stopped thinking about MH370. In fact, Oliver Plunkett, the CEO of Ocean Infinity, came out and said something that really hit home. He said that finding MH370 and bringing peace to everyone affected by its disappearance has always been on their minds since 2018. That's 7 years of carrying that weight. 7 years of wondering if they could someday return with better tools and more hope. That says something about the human side of this mission. It's not just about a contract or high-tech gear. It's about people wanting answers. The operation is expected to stretch out over 18 months. That might sound like a long time, but when you think about the scale of the search area and how deep and unpredictable the ocean can be, it almost feels too short. The best time for them to dive into the operation? Between January and April, a window when the waters are known to be calmer and more cooperative. Timing is everything here. They can't afford to guess or rush this. Everything has to line up. The technology, the weather, the data, and maybe, just maybe, a bit of luck too.
We have this data from this plane. Can we somehow use it to solve this mystery?
At the heart of all this, though, is something deeper than data or dollars. It's the pain of the families who still have no closure. It's the haunting memory of a plane full of people vanishing without a trace. It's the question that's echoed around the world for years. How does a modern aircraft just disappear in the age of satellites and global positioning? And more importantly, will we ever get the full truth? And in the next part of this story, we'll explore how that one flight forced the entire industry to rethink what it means to fly safely. So stay with us, because what comes next could affect every passenger, every pilot, and every plane in the sky. What this means for aviation safety and future crashes. The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 shook the entire world, not just because a commercial plane carrying 239 people vanished without a trace, but because it exposed some unsettling cracks in the aviation system many believed was foolproof. People around the globe kept asking, how does a plane just disappear in the age of smartphones and satellites? And perhaps more importantly, could something like this ever happen again? That tragic event forced the aviation industry to stop and take a hard look at itself.
Flight MH370 is deemed one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history.
Experts started to rethink everything, from how planes are tracked to how pilots are assessed mentally. And now, with artificial intelligence stepping more confidently into the cockpit, there's a new question hanging in the air. Could AI have helped prevent such a disaster? Could it at least be something like it from ever happening again? Well, some believe we're getting closer to that possibility. AI is already playing a quiet but growing role in aviation. It's not just about robots flying planes. It's about smarter systems that can watch, learn, and react in ways humans might miss. For instance, AI is now being used to eliminate those blind spots that once made it possible for a plane to slip off the radar over oceans or in remote areas. Can you believe that until now, there were still large patches of the sky, especially over vast oceans, where planes couldn't be tracked in real time? That's changing. Don Thoma, CEO of Aerion, confidently stated that by 2025, new satellite-based tracking systems will ensure that no plane flies without someone knowing exactly where it is. There will not be a place where an aircraft is not being tracked, he said. That's not a small promise. It's a massive leap toward accountability and, more importantly, peace of mind. But the magic of AI doesn't stop at tracking. AI systems are being trained to detect tiny anomalies in massive data sets, things a human might glance over or not even know to look for. These smart tools could potentially catch early warning signs of mechanical failures or risky flight patterns long before they escalate into emergencies. Picture this. Instead of reacting to problems once they're already in motion, airlines could prevent them altogether.
The search will cover 15,000 square kilometres and be led by British firm Ocean Infinity.
That's the power of predictive maintenance, and it's not just a buzzword. With the help of high-resolution microcameras and AI models that can see signs of trouble hidden deep within an aircraft's systems, engineers can now act before a problem costs money or lives. Reports show this proactive approach can reduce maintenance costs by up to 40%. But more importantly, it could save lives. Still, as much as technology can improve the machine, what about the human behind the controls? After all, machines don't make decisions alone. Not yet, anyway. The MH370 tragedy also forced a closer look at something people didn't like talking about: pilot mental health. It's a tough topic, especially in a profession that values composure, precision, and trust. But what happens when the people flying the planes are silently battling depression or burnout? It turns out, many pilots do just that, and they don't speak up, afraid they'll lose their licenses, their income, or their identity. In the United States, for example, pilots undergo regular physical exams, but psychological evaluations are minimal. Isn't it strange that someone responsible for hundreds of lives might not be thoroughly assessed for mental health? Following not just MH370, but also the horrifying Germanwings crash, where a co-pilot deliberately crashed a plane into the Alps, aviation authorities started to rethink things. The European Union Aviation Safety Agency, EASA, stepped up and introduced more robust mental health screenings at the start of a pilot's career. But even that isn't enough. Experts argue that mental health should be monitored consistently, not just once or twice during a pilot's long career. EASA is now investing in modern tools and research that could help spot red flags earlier, long before stress, isolation, or mental illness snowball into tragedy. Because at the end of the day, how can we talk about safety if we're ignoring the mental well-being of the people holding the controls?
The word from Malaysia tonight is that whatever happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 was no accident.
So here we are, standing at a turning point in aviation history. The loss of MH370 will always be heartbreaking and mysterious, but it has sparked something meaningful. It has pushed the industry to ask harder questions, explore smarter technology, and maybe, just maybe, admit that human vulnerability needs just as much attention as mechanical precision. With AI helping track planes more closely, predict malfunctions sooner, and maybe even support better decisions in real time, and with regulators slowly waking up to the emotional burden pilots carry, The future of flying could be safer and more humane. But the real question is, will these lessons stick? Or will it take another tragedy to remind the world what it learned the hard way? What new protocols may emerge from this discovery? People close to the aviation world have started saying that something big is finally changing. Something that should have happened a long time ago. After the haunting mystery of flights like MH370, manufacturers are no longer waiting for another tragedy to force their hand. They're now working on deployable flight data recorders, those black boxes we always hear about after a crash, that are actually designed to eject from the plane during impact and float on water. Pretty smart, right?
We had no idea which of those two was correct. So it either probably went to Kazakhstan or it went into the southern Indian Ocean.
It's the kind of technology the US military has been using for years, and many are wondering, why wasn't this standard in commercial planes all along? These new recorders could be game changers. Imagine a black box that doesn't sink to the bottom of the ocean, but instead pops out and floats, making it easier to find almost immediately. That alone could cut investigation times from years to weeks, or even days. At the same time, companies like Honeywell are stepping in with another layer of innovation. They're building systems that send real-time data to satellites while the plane is still in the air. That means if something starts going wrong, even slightly, investigators won't need to wait for a physical recorder to be recovered. The data will already be up in space, safely stored, and ready to be reviewed. How many lives could that kind of speed save? It's a question many experts are asking. But with great tech comes great responsibility, and none of this can happen in a vacuum. Everything must still work under the rules laid out by international aviation authorities, especially frameworks like ICAO Annex 13, which guide how investigations are supposed to be handled across borders.
Richard has spent the last 9 months using new tracking technology mapping the plane's final movements, and he believes he's found its final location.
Now, does this mean we'll never see another tragic aviation accident again? Of course not. No technology is perfect, and the skies will always come with some level of risk. But what it does mean is that when things go wrong, we won't be fumbling in the dark as we did with MH370. We'll have tools, better, faster, smarter tools to help us find answers. And here's the powerful part. Those answers won't just serve the families left behind. They'll ripple out into the entire aviation industry, pushing airlines and governments to create stricter safety protocols and smarter designs. The heartbreak from MH370 may never fully fade, but the lessons learned from that search are already setting the stage for a safer future. And in a world where flying is a daily part of life for millions, isn't that the least we owe ourselves? With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.